Welcome to another episode, everyone. High Desert State Prison. The skinheads there realized that they had a Chomo amongst their midst. They had a Chomo in their faction, essentially, that they had recruited and apparently had not vetted correctly. High Desert, as I've said before, is indeed the most violent prison in California. And in fact, there in High Desert is where I personally learned to respect the whites. I've said this before. Every car, every faction in High Desert is 10 toes down and strong because it's so violent there that even if your entire car is not taking care of business, another car will remove your whole car from the yard. They are that serious in High Desert. It's politically charged, and every day that you come out to the yard, you're just hoping to make it back inside of your cell. Every day, something transpires violently there on the level 4 180 yard in High Desert. And the whites were unaliving one another there in High Desert, stabbing one another, and putting in extreme work, standing on business, being structured, being racist. I mean, they were serious. That's the bottom line. And they did not accept any mess from anyone. But again, no group did. Every group was strong. And there was no way, it was virtually impossible for a Chomo, an abuser, to hit the yard and survive in High Desert once you are exposed. You have no chance. They will take your life up there. It's not a game. And the whites there were saving face. Enter Sammy. Let's call him Sammy. He comes to the yard. And he's been getting along just fine with the whites there on the yard. Sammy, when his name and number is called, is showing up. And the whites believe Sammy to be a strong, stand-up individual. He's panned out thus far, and no one has a bad word to say about old Sammy. He's walking around the yard with the whites. They're working out. He's holding the weapons. He's punching the punching bag on the yard there in High Desert. They had a punching bag. And Sammy is getting along well with others, but for the most part, you only find him talking to his people. But again, it's segregated like that, and you will find every group essentially stand to themselves to stay out of trouble, stay out of the mix there in High Desert, because it's a powder keg. Anything can set it off at any given moment. I've seen it. I've been involved in it. I was there for 7 years, and I witnessed so much violence, so much unspeakable violence, grisly violence, that you wouldn't believe it, particularly over what some of the violence was for. But Sammy's on the yard, and he's programming just fine, and everyone thinks that he's okay. Sammy is bald head. He got the whole skinhead thing going. He's bald head, tattoos everywhere. Swastikas, you name it. But all of them have this on the yard. Another white ends up hitting the yard. He comes to the yard, and after a day or so, he tells the hierarchy, wait a minute, I know Sammy. Sammy is no good. Sammy, I was in another prison with Sammy, he tells them. And Sammy was in there for a dastardly crime. Well, he had been involved with a 12-year-old. And he claimed that he had consent. But of course, a 12-year-old cannot consent. This is against the law, and it is against any moral code and any moral law. Sammy had claimed, I suppose, that the parents of the 12-year-old had sanctioned and subscribed to his dastardly ways. However, the whites there on whatever prison this was, whatever prison yard this was, this had been some years prior, obviously were not going for that response, that answer. They attacked Sammy, beat the living shit out of him, and got him off of the yard. Now, this is years later when Sammy is now on this yard. He has went home and come back for yet another crime, something totally different. He's no longer in there for dealing with the minor. He's in there for whatever, robbery, murder. I don't know what his charge was, but he wasn't in there for that. He had went home on that case. He had did his time for that case, went home, came back for something else. However, the dude that he was in the other prison with recognized him. Though you're not in there for that now, it doesn't matter. You were once incarcerated for this. An unforgivable, irreversible crime that we all frown upon. Involved with a 12-year-old, this is sickening. Sammy is in the blind. He doesn't know. Apparently, Sammy doesn't recognize the dude that recognized him. Dude recognizes Sammy, but Sammy didn't recognize dude. Again, this was years prior. And apparently he wasn't one of the whites that had attacked Sammy and got him off of the yard years before. So Sammy doesn't recognize him, but the dude recognized Sammy, and he's saying, this is him. He's telling the higher-ups, this is him. This is his name. They check, they doing a little investigation, and find out that's not Sammy's name. But Sammy, well, he's astute. He's criminally aware. And he's using subterfuge to survive. He's used his brother's name, an alias, when he came back to prison for this newer charge. So he's not under the name that he was under before, when he was in prison before, when they attacked him for the dastardly crime. So he's thinking that he can escape because, then his name was Keith, and now his name is Sammy. But no, the whites, they are also astute. And there are ways to do your investigation there in prison and find out exactly who you are around and what's going on. They have long reach. They have reach to the street. So they're going to find out. They found out, wait a minute, Sammy is not really Sammy. His real name is such and such. Sammy is using his brother's name. Sammy used an alias. And that is the individual that was in another prison for those grisly charges. And so there's nothing to talk about with Sammy. Hell, Sammy may not make it off of this yard. He is about to be attacked viciously and violently. Well, the whites have taken it personal because they believed in Sammy. They embraced him. He knows all of their business. He's a part of their culture, a part of their world. Only to find out that he's not really one of them, that he's committed one of the most heinous crimes that one can commit. Well, they've taken umbrage to this personally because how dare you fool us into believing that you were one of us? So they really want to make a strong example out of Sammy. And they did not waste any time whatsoever. Rarely in high desert is time wasted when it's time to remove someone. The job is, if you are a target, they're not going to allow you to get off of the yard before you can get what's coming to you. You will be attacked immediately. No one hesitates there in high desert. And Sammy, well, the whites surrounded him. Once apparently the decision was made, the identification was confirmed, this is indeed the Chomo. Get him. And they got him. They attacked him from the front and from the back with knives. And Sammy started howling. He tried to run. They clipped him and had him on the ground. And one dude was holding him and the other dude was, you can see how big the knife was. humongous. And they was stabbing Sammy on the yard. They know to yell, get out, get out. Everybody got out, but the whites are on him. About 3 of them. They are relentless. But I've seen this before from them. And now with these charges, they are looking to end Sammy. And he's out there and he's a bloody mess. He's no longer moving. No longer running, trying to get away or twitching on the ground. In fact, he's motionless. I thought, well, that was the end of Sammy. And they're continuing to hit him. It was a vicious, brutal attack. They wanted to strike. They wanted the recognition, excuse me, for unaliving, deleting a scumbag. They wanted that on their jacket. So they were trying to get rid of him. But like so many others, somehow Sammy has 9 lives. Only the good die young. He survived the attack. But clearly, he was never the same. Again, never going to be the same. His insides had to have been ruptured somewhere. He had to have lost a lung or a kidney because they opened him up. When a stretcher came and got Sammy off the yard, they had to rip his shirt off. And you can see basically his guts hanging out. He was ripped and he was out. He wasn't moving. I thought he was dead. We all thought he was dead. But again, word came down that Sammy did survive his attack, but barely. And that's what happens. You cannot escape. You come to prison for a dastardly crime. Even if you escape years before, it will still follow you. You will never be able to live it down. And eventually, someone is going to attempt to take your life, to take you out. It's best to stay out of prison. And should you go in there, certainly do not go for having any dealings with someone who is underage. Yes, I know these other dudes, the Hoovers, just got this RICO Act with these sort of allegations. I'm going to get into that. If it's true, it's all bad. I don't give a fuck who it is. Don't get involved in this. If you do, your ass is done. Say what you want about inmates, incarcerated people, prisoners. They have a moral code. They're more moral than some of these individuals on the street, than some of these pastors that run the churches that are nothing but chomos, undercover murderers. They have more morals. And if you go in there for a crime that disregards a moral code, that's your ass. Stay free, people.